talking about mental health, we are not talking about a concept that you can, but it's a concept that affects your day-to-day activities. The most important aspect, as you are saying, is the prevention aspect. Let us not get to the problem. What you want to do, even if you are the only one who sees it, pursue it until it opens up to what you said. We must, as young people, we must, as just listeners, try to see things from a different perspective so that we can say, you see yourself, in fact, you become what you want to be even before you become that also. So let us also, if you have a chance to help someone else, do so. You lose nothing really by uplifting some listeners and viewers at home. I'd say let us not lose everything and anything, but we have not lost everything if we have not lost the hope and
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to another episode of As You Think, So Are You. We are back again, and I'm your host Neliswa Mazibuko, and today we'll be delving more deeper into how our thoughts actually affect our lives, how we can actually tackle all issues around mental health, and how we can actually get to develop ourselves in the midst of all the problems we are faced with, and how we can actually get to navigate life at the same time being able to enjoy it and being productive. And so today I would like to just invite you once again to stay with us as we have this conversation, because I believe you will have something that you can take home, something that you can relate to, and an experience that you can actually learn from. So as we continue having this conversation, stay tuned. And today I'm excited to have with me our guest, Mthobisi Ntjangase, my brother. Welcome.
thank you very much for having me, Mfowethu. It's a pleasure to be here in this session with you.
What can you say about yourself? Who is Mthobisi Ntjangase?
Okay, of late, I think I've been finding it quite difficult to. I think I'll make an example. I think there are some applications where you are required to just give a brief biography of yourself. I think of late with how I am evolving, with how I'm rediscovering new things about myself. I think I've been having it quite difficult to define myself maybe in a sentence or so. But I'd say Mthobisi Ntjangase is a youth activist, a mental health professional, a writer, but most importantly, I think if I had to ground myself, I think there are three components or there are three aspects of my life which I'm grounded to. It's the mental health aspect, it's youth leadership, and then it's writing and poetry. But today we are here because of the mental health aspects as well as the personal. But then again, we cannot separate the personal from the professional because there is a very thin line between the two. So, yeah, I think we'll interchange between the professional, the personal, and when we sometimes will dive into maybe other aspects which aren't related to mental health, but still they're part of my life. So, thank you very much, my brother, once again for having me here.
Hmm, quite an introduction, eh?
Okay.
I'm picking from your introduction that we really cannot confine ourselves to one thing. You can't be anything you want to be.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you are actually getting to say, in as much as I can have this grounding me, just as the base definition of who I am, but really, I am not confined to being the mental health nurse that I am. I am not confined to being the writer that I am. I am still evolving. I think I like the fact that you say of late you can't actually define because you are discovering new things.
Yeah.
So maybe just to out of interest,
Okay.
what do you think you have discovered in the past days about you? Maybe from an experience, maybe from anything.
Okay. I think one thing which I have been discovering, particularly from conversations I've been having with the people around me, one, I have discovered that I have been confining myself for quite a long time, unconsciously so. Of course, we cannot separate ourselves from the environment that we are in. So you tend to reflect to be a reflection of the environment that you are in. I think I have been having some limitations as in relation to what I can do, to how far I can go, based on what I've been exposed to. And as I've been trying to try out new things, as I've been trying to learn from other people, particularly people not just from Swaziland but from other countries, I've realized that, as young people, not just myself, Swazi young people, we have so much potential, and unfortunately, we have not been exposed to a space whereby we can discover and use that potential to transform our lives and to transform the lives of those around us. So I think of late, briefly, I have discovered that there's far a lot that I can still do. I've done some things, but I feel like they haven't been to my fullest potential. So there's still more to be done. But mostly I've rediscovered, because it's something that I've always known. I have rediscovered the power of collaboration, the power of working with people, of being in collaboration instead of being in competition with other people, because we have a lot to offer to each other, and we have a lot to share, and we have a lot to learn and to teach to other people. So we must be able to use our networks and the people around us to develop ourselves and to develop them as well, because I don't think we must be selfish in a sense, in as much as there is personal development is important, but personal development must be attached to developing those around you at the same time, so that you cannot be parasitic, that you are only receiving without giving unto the world. So that is what I have discovered of late in some of the projects that I've been engaged in, which I think we'll also discuss as we move forward with our conversation, as we spoke about the subject of unemployment, and how, as young people in Swaziland and anywhere and everywhere, we can develop resilience from such conditions and be able to discover what has been confining us and how we can break free from that. Yeah. Yeah.
That is nice. That is so profound. Like, yeah, that is so profound, and I think I've picked a lot.
Okay.
From a professional standpoint, given the fact that you are a mental health nurse,
Yeah.
what actually get you to decide on such a profession?
Okay.
Out of all the professions that they are, and out of all the suggestions that the world can suggest for us, and actually try to channel us in a certain way that we should be confined to this is what should be done, this is what is done. And the fact that at this point, or I think at your time, mental health was not really something that was talked about that much.
Yeah.
It was more of a field that was virgin, I can say,
Yeah. Yeah.
that hasn't been explored.
Yeah.
But then it had to be someone who's courageous to actually say, no, let me just try this thing,
Yeah.
maybe out of their own reason. So
Okay.
what actually led you to have that?
Okay. I'll trace it back to when I was still in high school. I'm glad that you are also a mental health professional yourself, and in fact, a nurse above being a mental health professional, and you'll relate to some of the things because I've been noting from our class in the class of 2022, which graduated in 2022. Roughly when we got into the program, we were about 62. And out of the 62 who were in that class, about 3 or 4 had actually wanted to do nursing in the first place.
Out of
So,
the 62.
out of the 62, about 3 or 4 wanted to do nursing in the first place. So I trace maybe my journey with discovering or with loving mental health even back before that experience. I think it was around 2015. So where I was immersing myself, I think it was after I'd completed Form 3 exams. So you know that when you complete the junior certificate exams, it's whilst others are still at school. So you have quite a lot of time, and your friends or the people that you relate to are still at school. So I got to read even in depth about quite a lot of subjects. I think that's why I fell in love with poetry as well. I was just fascinated by literature, but I dived deeper into poetry. But also, that's where I discovered from experiences of other young people in the community, because learning is not only confined to books. You learn from people, you learn from teaching, and then you learn from books, and then you learn from experiences. So as I was reading, I discovered that there is quite an interesting field called mental health. And then I read about it, in particular psychiatry. I read about it, and then I also saw quite a number of case studies in the times of Swaziland at that time, whereby there were a number of young people who had committed suicide. And then there was this mental health professional who was always on the news trying to discuss what issues we have in our country and how we can try to resolve those issues. So I think in 2015, I got fascinated by psychiatry or mental health in general. So initially, I had wanted to do psychiatry as opposed to psychiatric nursing. So that is to say, my preference was that I would do a medicine, and then after I had done medicine, then I'll be able to specialize in psychiatry. Like most of you, I think I'm saying this, I don't know from your end, but from our class, most of those who were in our class had actually wanted to do medicine. So they said they used nursing as something to fall back on whilst re strategizing, rediscovering themselves. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know if it's fortunate, but during the process when you were in the profession, I began to discover that actually I wasn't much drawn much into medicine per se, because I realized that it was the expectation from our society and even from our environment to say,
The
area. Exactly, that you are good in mathematics, you are good in sciences, so why not do medicine, which was seen as a which is seen as a prestigious profession. I think you can also relate to that. But then when I got to immerse myself in the nursing profession, in particular psych, I began to discover that what I was actually interested was people more than the technical aspect of medicine. And then when you talk about people, then you cannot talk about people and not talk about nursing. You cannot talk about people and not talk about their mental wellness, which is a backbone, or which is, I think, the pivots that influences all the other aspects of their lives. So when I was in level one, then doing my nursing, also having fallen back because I couldn't do medicine at that time, I said, no, let me start with nursing as a stepping stone so that I can do medicine later on. But I think my whole perspective changed on the first week. We had our lecture in Introduction to Psychology, taught by one lecturer that was still in contact with even at the moment. I think I was taken aback. I was fascinated about how, in fact, it was two lecturers. There was one lecturer who had brought another lecturer who was a guest lecturer at that time, Mr. Siyabonga Mabuza. So how they unpacked mental health, how they unpacked psychology, how they introduced it to us. It said to me, this is what I've always wanted to do. Not medicine, not psychiatry, but I've always wanted to do a mental health nursing. Just that I didn't know that there was a profession of that sort. What I knew from reading and from interacting with others is the psychiatry aspects from the medical aspect, not from the nursing aspect. So that is how I fell in love with mental health. And then also from my personal experiences, my backlinks with mental health issues myself, because growing up from an underprivileged environment, there's a lot of pressure, even from the community, a lot of pressure at home for you to break what others call generational curses. So the odds are stacked against you, so you must navigate that path. So I think it said to me, this is what can empower me and also empower those around me to discover who they are and also discover their potential, discover what they are actually capable of attaining, because we have unlimited potential. I think, I don't know if you've heard about it, there is a study which says the average human being uses approximately 2% of their mental capacity, 2%. So if you are really that committed, or you've been exposed, then you use about 3%. But the actual mental capacity of a human being is even far greater than any computer that you can imagine. We can never expand it, we can never use it to its full we can always do more and more, and we are only limited by time and the fact that we cannot be in separate places at the same time. So yeah, that is what drew me to mental health, my brother.
That is so beautiful. I'm taking one other thing that you said, the thing of your experiences. that actually led you to relate with the profession. Maybe just to share briefly, if you're comfortable, what really was it? Maybe one thing which I think a person can relate to at this point in time. Maybe there's someone at home, someone who's watching this, who will be watching, who's like, I'm faced with this thing, but how can I actually get out? Not really get out professionally to go to that field, but what really actually related or resonated with you from the experience growing up and the profession.
Okay. I think I wouldn't start from the background, from as young as maybe from a younger age, but I'd say what I can recall clearly was, I think the constant struggles in high school because I came from a public school. I was in a public school in one of the rural areas where there was limited exposure to quite a number of things. And one thing that exposed you to the external world mostly was reading, more than you identifying people that you can say, no, when I grow up, or when I grow up, I want to be like that person, I want to emulate. So there were fewer role models. Not to say there weren't people who were doing incredible things, and there were quite, and there are still quite a number of people who are doing incredible things. But in line with what you wanted to do, there were fewer people that you could relate to personally at that time. So at a personal level, it was, the financial struggles in high school, whereby, you'll find yourself having to be frustrated about where you go to get school fees and all that, such that in Form 4 and Form 5, because they could see that I was committed, I was a student leader even from 13, Form 5. So they could see that this young man is very committed. So the school resolved to say, you are not going to pay your school fees from here, so we'll assist you, we'll cater for your school fees because you are committed. And so, and I think that because it took some strain from my shoulders, because I did not have to worry about, frustrating my parents about school fees, about this and that. So I said, okay, at least one load has been lifted, then now I have to focus on this. But also fundamentally, there is something that happened when I completed Form 5 in 2017. Almost similar to what happened in Form 3, because you have quite a lot of time at that period. We completed in October 31 or so. I cannot recall specifically. But when we completed, then there's you stay home, others go to school, others go to work. And then I said, no, there was one news platform where I applied to, then I was a columnist. I wrote for them, but it was just on a voluntary basis. Of course, I just wrote once a week for them. But then as time went by, I realized that as I would want to prepare for university, I think I must uplift myself economically. Then I started searching for employment, and not anything fancy per se. Just say if I want to have anything to do in the meantime, whilst
Get busy.
just to get busy, and also to save, because I from reading, from the Times of Southern, I've seen the struggles that students go through in tertiary institution. So I wanted to prepare myself, but I went from pillar to post, from supermarkets, from whatever you can think of. And, there were no opportunities, there were no jobs. And, that was really frustrating. And I think I even went to an extent of being frustrated. And I would say it was almost closer to depression, because you want to do something, you want to keep your mind busy, you want to keep yourself actively engaged, but there's nothing that you can do at that particular moment. So it was a really frustrating period, and it was a depressing period, I have to admit, such that I even thought of seeking professional help. I remember I called one psychologist, which I had known from around Shiselweni. And when I called her, and I didn't know that mental health services. Okay, in fact, at that time, as you were saying, when we started nursing, there was, mental health wasn't talked about that much. So when I reached out to her, I said, Ish, I feel like I'm drowning in depression. I need help. And she said to me, okay, all right, no, I'll send you a quotation on WhatsApp. And then she sent a quotation, and the quotation was, I needed to have 750 emalangeni. Mind you, that is early 2018, around January or February. I needed to have 750 emalangeni per hour, per hour. Yeah, in 1 hour for sessions.
The thing that's depressing you, the thing that's depressing you is that you don't have a job.
Exactly. Yeah.
You cannot.
Precisely. Exactly. I think I'm glad you are getting. So I was frustrated because I was unemployed. And then again, as I'm trying to reach out for supports, and then it goes back to say, I cannot even afford the help that I need to deal with the challenge that I have that is frustrating me. So I said, Aish, unfortunately, I cannot afford. And she said to me, Aish, no, there's nothing that I can help you with. Just pray. Hopefully, God will help you. And I said, it said to me, but how can someone say, pray? Because I think for me, it's unrealistic for me to say, you need a glass of water, and you reach out to me to say, Mthobisi, can you please assist me with a glass of water? And I say to you, Ish, I cannot offer you this one. I'm saving it for whoever I'm saving it to. But please pray God will supply you with a glass of water whilst you have a glass of water right next to you. But I'm not blaming her. She was in business. In fact, it was a profession. In fact, it was her work. But I think for me, because she was exposed to the mental health profession, she could have said, oh, there are other services that you can reach out to which are free of charge. In government institutions. Probably she had even networks from NGOs and say you can reach out to this person, maybe they can support you.
Help, but
Exactly. But exactly, just to suggest, but it was not there. So I said to myself, I would want to find a platform or find a space whereby accessing mental health services doesn't have to frustrate you above you being frustrated by the challenges that you have. So that is why I think of late we've been looking into certain concepts of providing mental health services. Of course, there are limitations that come with providing them free of charge because you must survive as well and you must commit yourself at the same time. So it becomes quite challenging. But you are looking into the idea of saying we want to engage organizations and stakeholders who can say we can provide the infrastructure. Let us say our visuals says we have a room that you can use for free because you are not because no one is paying for that. So we have a room, and someone says we can cover transportation and all that. So I think to make the work easier, so we're looking into that concept, and we've been engaging a few individuals in organizations, and it's quite looking up as well. So I think that is what those are the personal experiences that said to me, I need to do this so that I can more than, because for me, I don't believe that we need to put a profit above people.
true.
Fundamentally, it's people before profits. Of course, you must survive, but people must come before any profit that you would want to make as well. So those are the personal experiences that led me to say, no, I want to be in this field.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Okay.
Can I actually just get to appreciate you, my brother, from what you've just shared and from the effort you are putting to actually get to see through that other people don't face what you are faced with at a point in time where you couldn't get any assistance because you also had no idea where to actually look for help.
Correct.
I appreciate the time that you took to actually join us because I think this is one other way we can actually get information out there to the people where they can actually get it free of charge. Well, it's not really free of charge, but just get it out there without them actually getting to pay, because because we are faced with a lot. And you find that we don't know where we can get the solution. We don't know where we can get help actually. And maybe even some people do maybe afford to actually get the service, but maybe they don't even know where to get the service from.
Yeah.
And it's more like we really need to get the information out there. Mental health might be new, but the problems were there even before the concept of mental health
As a profession.
We've been dealing with this, but we people tend to confine things to the words that we give them. And in that way, they actually end up being foreign. The concept of mental health, I think, has been foreign while I think ever since the beginning of life, it was there.
Yeah, precisely.
It was there. And this is just me appreciating the work you guys are doing, the work you personally are doing. The fact that you had an experience and said to yourself, in as much as I was faced with this, it doesn't mean the next person should also go through what I went through to actually get to have the lessons, to have the experiences. You sharing your experiences will save somebody else from actually going through the same trouble, but actually get a shortcut. Maybe they don't even have the resilience that you had at that time, because you managed to pull yourself out. In as much as they said pray, but you actually stayed long enough and actually took it as a challenge upon yourself that if I am faced with this, and I know I'm not the only one faced with it, and I know other people also, because from the same situation, we are faced with the same financial crisis. Most of us are living below the poverty line and everything, and it's worse when it comes to the youth, when we are talking of unemployment, when we are talking of dealing with issues. Even we talked of, you were reading the newspapers back then, still headlines of suicide. Even today, we are still having those headlines, because the problems are not disappearing. They are actually getting worse. Given our financial economy, we can see now it is not someone who has completed school that actually can't have a job only. It is someone who has a qualification, a master's,
some PhDs.
You see, and how it actually gets so worse. Gansi, when we were growing up, we were told, go to school, go to university, you'd get a job, you are set for the rest of your life. But when you get to the ground, it is not the same situation. You're faced with challenges in school. You can't pay school fees. Underprivileged background, there's nothing you can do. You have the grace yourself, you have the grace of actually having the effort. You put in the effort such that some people were able to recognize that you are hardworking, and we can help. Some people are not that lucky.
Yes.
Let me just call it luck. Some people are not that lucky. Some people actually, it becomes the end of the road for the things that they are faced with. And from your point, how can we actually get to deal with all these things that we are faced with? Because there's a familiar term, kuningi, kupakshelene, you get, it's
sure.
it's a lot, and it's not really because we are sarcastic about it, but we're actually still even trying to find a way to deal with such problems, because when you sit down with the person who said kuningi, kupakshelene, it is challenge. I've went to school, got a degree, got that master's, but now I'm staying at home. And I'm not different than someone who didn't even bother going to school. How can we actually navigate that? And talking about that, you yourself, have you actually get permanent employment?
No, I have not. I think that's a very interesting question. Of course, I have not gotten a permanent employment as yet. I had gotten some jobs which one I got, and I resigned within 5 months for some reasons as well. Even though I appreciated the experience that I got, because it was not in line with my 10-year strategic plan which I had at that time. But aside from that, besides, it was only a 10 months contract. So even if I hadn't resigned, but there was fewer chances of it being renewed because it was a project that was not permanent. So I haven't gotten a permanent job myself. So I'm saying that the frustration of unemployment is not only something that you see from a distance, but it's something that you relate to, and something that you see from your peers as well. Something that you get calls from your friends and say, no, Mthobisi, and I think we're having it hard. We cannot handle things anymore. How can we survive? How can we do this and that? So it's not an academic concept. It's a practical reality that our people are faced with. And we must find a way to navigate that as well, as we might have to discuss some strategies on how we can navigate that. but also emphasizing that, there must be some structural changes that take place, because it's not a personal failure. The fact that you have not gotten the mental health nursing job that you are trained to do is not a personal failure on your part as well, because unfortunately, when you have not understood the society that we live in, you tend to ascribe systematic failures to yourself and say, maybe I haven't done enough. Maybe there's, while at the same time you can discover that you've done quite a lot. And someone was saying, just to go off tangent, someone was saying, people say African people are lazy, that's why they are poor. And I said, if you could wake up at 4 to 5 a.m. and just go to the streets or go to town, you'll discover that there are people who wake up as early as 3 to 4 to hustle, to do whatever, but they're still poor. Street vendors, exactly. Street vendors, exactly. So it's not necessarily a concept of being a people poor because they are not hardworking enough. We cannot downplay the structural changes that need to take place, and also the maybe inequality that we see in our societies as well. Not Swaziland, but not only in Swaziland, but across so many countries. And we must be able to understand that holistically as we deal with it, maybe at a micro level, but we must understand it at a macro level as well, from a broader perspective. And also, there is one concept that you said, just to take you back a little bit. I hope I'm not going off topic that much. You said mental health has been a concept. Oh, by the way, this is a great initiative. That's why when you send me the invitation, I jumped to the opportunity, because I said, "Wow, that's a brilliant concept." Because I've realized that most people relate with audio visuals more than reading. So you can write about mental health, write about it, but as long as there is no human face attached to it. So these concepts of interacting with your viewers, with your listeners, is one way of getting the information out there, and it's one way of bridging the gap between people and information, and also empowering people to take major steps about their lives, and also ensure that they are mentally well as well. So they're empowered, exactly, they're empowered, they get the information. So I must appreciate this initiative that you have. And of course, we know it's not for profit, of course, and you are doing it solely out of passion, and you must appreciate the people that you have collaborated with to make this a reality as well. So I was saying, yeah. So in fact, I wanted to say with that, it's one of this concept that you are having, or this initiative that you have. I think it's one of the ways that we can deconstruct the concept of mental health. There is one supervisor, or someone that supervises the work that I do at a professional level. She says she's based in Cape Town. She's a psychologist by training. So she usually says we must decolonize mental health, and we must take it away from being an abstract concept and make it a relatable. Let people relate with mental health. That when we are talking about mental health, we are not talking about a concept that you can, but it's a concept that affects your day-to-day activities. The fact that we're able to wake up and come here to studio and host these sessions, it means you are mentally empowered to do that. So that's how we must deconstruct the concept of mental health, decolonize it from it being solely on diagnosing people or pathologizing people. It should be last part. Exactly. The pathology is the last part, but the most important aspect is the primary aspects, and also ensuring that we relate to it in our day-to-day life, so that we can be empowered to do what we are capable of doing. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot that can be unpacked, especially around this whole subject. And I appreciate the way that you are actually tackling it, not actually even getting to confine it. We really need to actually get the information out there. I want to believe even what we are doing here is not enough. There's a lot that we can actually do. There's a lot. In our setting, mental health is still falling.
Yeah.
We are seeing the ripple effects of the lack of the information, or rather, let me not say the lack, but the lack of relatability with the information that's out there,
Yeah.
because we are quick to jump into diagnosing people. We are quick to jump into calling it depression, calling it suicidality and everything. But at the end of the day, what are we doing before we get there?
Yeah.
Because we need to tackle these issues at a grassroots level.
Yeah.
Primary, we start with prevention.
Yeah.
Let us try not to get to the solution, to the problem,
Yes.
because unfortunately, we are not able to deal with the problems once they manifest.
Yeah. And sometimes someone was, in fact, a few times, and I was struggling to grasp and appreciate that information. But someone was saying, when it has gotten to a certain period, when someone has mental illness, there's a time whereby there's little that you can do. You can just support that individual, but in terms of reversing it, it becomes quite difficult as well. Such that, unfortunately, this is not to say to the viewers that suicide is just, or suicide may be something that we can explore. So we must always fight. We must always find hope amidst all situations. But there's someone who was telling me that one competent individual, by the way, he was telling me that he saw a client, they had a conversation, they spoke, and that, and he could see that that person was progressing quite well. And then 3 days after the session, he heard that that person had committed suicide. So if we leave it until we want to deal with it at a tertiary level or at the treatment level, it becomes quite difficult. So the most important aspect, as you are saying, is the prevention aspect. Let us not get to the problem. The best way to avoid the problem is to ensure that we do not get to it as well. So I think I wanted to echo what you were saying in terms of the prevention. But the prevention aspect, I must emphasize, is not only related only to just raising awareness about mental health, but the prevention aspect is broader to an extent that it must be socio-economic, because you can say to me, maybe you speak to me, but at the end of the day, I must have something to eat at the end of the day. I must have a support system. So if you do not address the social and the economic aspect, it will be just preaching to the converted. But unfortunately, there will be little change that is done. So we must see it. In fact, mental health is must be incorporated in every aspect of any field in our society. We're joking with a colleague of mine who is also a mental health nurse in some organization where I am engaged with once or twice a week. Um, he was saying, I think maybe we need to have a policy that says every health professional must have a background in mental health, because, when you see the behaviors, or when you see how people relate with clients, or how they relate with mental health, it becomes a challenge, and you say that this person could be better empowered to do much better as well. So that was just on a different perspective.
So I think we've touched on many things.
Yeah.
We have touched on many things, but the core issue we are faced with, and I think the topic that we should be discussing, is the issue of unemployment.
Yeah.
The issue of actually getting to deal with the situations that we are faced with as unemployed individuals.
Yeah.
Because we get to put the effort that is expected, status quo, from the society, to say, get through these routes, you will be set for your life. You will be set for life. But then we get to see that the grass is not greener where we thought it would be greener. I did the school, I did the university, excelled. I excelled. I didn't get a diploma, I didn't get a degree, I got a master's, even, and got a PhD. How do I actually get to navigate those things? Because the thing that becomes a challenge, as you mentioned, we tend to associate the general problems with our personal strengths or failures. I would get to say, I am unemployed because maybe I didn't do 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
and we get to actually get to the depression, get to the anxiety, the thoughts of suicide.
Yeah.
I am good for nothing.
Yeah.
I've tried everything. Nothing seems to work out.
Mm.
How can I navigate that as an individual out there, as a young person out there? I am ambitious. I am driven. There's nothing I can do at this point.
Yeah.
I feel like I did everything I could,
Yeah.
but the society didn't meet me halfway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if it's not the society per se, but I couldn't actually get to be where I want to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe you can just get deeper into that.
Okay. In fact, that's a very that's a subject that most of us relate to, and also at a personal and a professional level as well. And also, it's a subject that most young people out there relate to, the issue of unemployment, because currently you'll recall that about 6 in 10 young people, if you can just go outside here and gather 10 young people, the probability that of the 10, there is a high probability that 6 of them would not be employed. Uh, and even the 4 that are employed, by the way, you will find that they are underemployed. They are not employed in line with their skills, with their qualifications, or with their expertise in whatever field. So the issue, the crisis of unemployment is a very serious one, and we must confront it as a society if we want to do away with the socio-economic ills, because I think that's why we are seeing more young people engaging in substances, criminal behavior, it's some even prostitution. This unemployment is the highest push factor that channels young people to go to those unfortunate fields, or to those unfortunate acts in society. But I would say, first of all, I just want to acknowledge that, the issue of unemployment is mostly not related to personal failure, as we've been maybe made to believe by society, by the people around us. I think you could relate at times. The even it may be I'd be personal with you. Okay, you'll find that in your home, depending on how exposed they are to, maybe to information, but there is this narrative which seeks to say, a Rango or Mazibuko, Neliswa, or I don't know if you use this name, but it's our visuals. Yeah, our visuals. The R does not come from. Okay, no, that's fine, let's not get, but there is some narrative which seeks to say, if you can work harder, if you can do this, there is this narrative which seeks to say you are not doing enough to seek for employment. But they could be surprised if they could open your emails. You've sent more than 100 emails that were unanswered, and you've printed a step of papers, yeah, your CVs, your application letters that you've been sending, and you've not been getting any response. So I want to acknowledge the effort that young people are putting in order to try and transform their situation. And it must be acknowledged as well, so that young people cannot feel like it's my personal failure, I'm not doing enough. Many people are doing incredible things, by the way. So we must acknowledge that. And also the frustration that comes with unemployment. Someone was saying, I don't know if it was a joke or, yeah, it was dark humor, I guess. He was saying, the more you are unemployed, is the more you are likely to be unemployed.
Oh.
And yeah, so the more you are unemployed, is the more you are likely to be unemployed. So to say, the more you are employed, the more you are likely to get another opportunity for some other work, because of your experience, because of the
But in
networks.
essence, it's true.
Because of the networks that you build. So unemployment is very frustrating, and also it also drives so many people to depressive episodes, to suicidality. But I want to say today, we must not then allow that to confine us, because there is far more that the world is has to offer to us. We might not be there at the moment, but if we if we do not lose hope, I have this, whenever maybe I think there is something major that I have to do. I always put this on. It says hope. So for me, it says even when you've lost everything, make sure you do not lose just one thing, just hope. If you have some hope that, not wishful hope, you would say, I hope that I'll get 1 million tomorrow. I know. But hope that says, exactly, scientific hope. So to say, I know that things are not where they are, where they should be at the moment, but tomorrow I have a chance to try again and to position myself to be where I would want to be. So I would acknowledge that people must develop hope. You must find something that gives you hope to carry on, to keep on trying, to keep on breaking barriers, to keep on challenging the status quo so that it cannot define who you actually are. And that speaks to being versatile.
Yeah.
I like what you are doing. The mental health nurse. I don't know if you are still a writer, but I used to know you as a writer and a poet at some point. So and then now you are in the creative space of photography and videography, which is something incredible. And it says to me, you must be versatile in as much as you are still looking for employment as a mental health nurse, but it says try to get yourself busy as well.
Yeah, many skills that you can accumulate that can actually work for you.
Try to develop certain skills. Some of them you don't have to go to school for them, because I don't think you went to an institution to study videography. It's something that you were passionate about and you taught yourself, and now you are more like a professional. So it says, we must find, it's not easy, I agree, and we do not have same access to the privileges that others have, because someone would say, you are saying I must develop a skill. I don't even have that cell phone. I do not even have that access to the internet. Even if I have that cell phone, but I cannot even afford to purchase data as well to try and learn certain skills. So you understand that the struggle is real as well.
Can I put something there? What you're saying? Sorry to disturb you.
Yeah, no,
But
you're not disturbing.
I think when it comes to such things of resources, sometimes it's not that we don't have the resources, but we are not looking at the right places for the resources.
Okay.
Because I will just give an example of public libraries. They do have access to internet, the American spaces. I once went there just looking for something.
How many of them do you have in the country?
That lucky few.
Yeah.
That lucky few, because we are not really saying we have everything fully fledged. But one thing that I want people to know, if you are determined to do something, you can actually do it. You do not need the privilege. You do not need to have that good start on things.
Yeah.
Honestly speaking, if I can say, I started off from story for another day.
Yeah, no. It's absolutely okay. No, you can share. You can share, really. Yes.
But like you say that you don't really get to have the background that you can actually lay as an advantage starting point, But the dedication, the effort, and the hope that you say we mustn't lose,
Yeah.
The thought that says things can get better. Like just to keep on trying. Because one beautiful thing about the universe, my brother, that I've gotten to actually experience and see, if you are so determined to get something, the universe will gravitate in your favor.
Conspire to make it happen. Yeah.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it is a theory, it is fine.
Yeah.
It will remain a theory until you take the first step.
Yeah.
Starting this from scratch, one thing I usually say to people, this was funded by faith only.
Okay.
Before we get to the practicalities of the investments that we made.
Yeah.
But the idea, I had a conversation with someone who is well established now. I was just asking, how did you actually get to be where you are? And he said to me, the greatest potential of a human being is the idea in their mind, because we will never have the same ideas. The different ideas that we have, if we invest enough effort, not really money, enough effort, we can actually get to see them through. And as we are seeing them through, other things will fall into plan.
Yeah.
Will fall into place.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to echo what you are saying, that in as much as we are limited by resources
and
but
exposure,
and exposure, but let us not confine ourselves to those limitations.
Yes.
But let us keep on trying each and every day we are given a new opportunity. It's a new slate. You can write a whole different story.
Yeah.
You are a writer.
Yeah.
You keep on flipping pages.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You
Cancel
cancel
some,
you know.
you
You
have some pages.
Yeah.
So it's life is more of trial and error, trial and error, trial and error,
until you do not know which day
Mm.
you actually get to succeed.
Yeah. In fact, I like what you are saying. You said earlier on, in fact, when you take a decision, the universe will always conspire to make it happen. And at times, it takes a bit of madness for you to say, I do not have what it takes at the moment to embark on this project, but I know that I'm going to embark on it. I'm going to invest all that I have, all that is in me, all the effort that is in me to say, I am pursuing this to a point whereby if at times it's not only I wouldn't make examples like your Albert Einsteins because it will seem theoretical, but even we have practical cases in our context in the African continents in the Swazi space where people who when they started saying I have this cause that I must embark on, some of them were seen as mad because people could not conceptualize the vision that they have. People could not conceptualize the goal that they have. It's such that you were saying you were speaking about mental health earlier on. It seems as if people who chose mental health 10 years ago, you would ask them, but bocabangeni utaendani le mental health yakho? Because that was the level of madness that we must have as young people, we must have as a society.
Just
that
do it.
when you want to do something, find ways to align everything you have towards doing it. The universe will conspire to make it. And so develop the skills, be diverse, be versatile as well. Learn from other people. And more than anything, there is one aspect that people tend to neglect is the importance of human capital. More than anything,
Relationships,
yes, we
networks.
must build, and it's not only because we must not see it maybe in the context of nepotism, but networks. Let's say I have a project that I have and I need someone who will do photography. And that, of course, the first person who will come to mind will be say, oh, there's art visuals, that's a former colleague of mine. And that's someone that I've actually, whose work I've seen. So, once you build those networks, you get yourself out there, things will align. You'll find the people who will assist you to get to your potential as well. So you must build network. And at times, it speaks to issues of do things for free. Yeah, volunteer. The fact that you are in a space whereby you are maybe with CEOs or
Being seen.
like you interact, and as you interact with them, you'll get to learn something, and maybe you'll not get employed by that, but you'll develop an idea that will say, I saw them doing something like that. How about I try to restructure it in this manner and try to do this? So that's why when you were asking if I am employed, I said, to me at this point, honestly, I don't know, but maybe the universe, I think as time goes by, my priorities will change. But at this point, I don't see myself, doing an 8 to 5. I feel it's too confining because I want to work according to my own terms at this point to say, today, let me just work at home. I can do things. So I think that's the path that I want to take. Of course, it's not going to be an easy path as well. And the fact that you don't want to work an 8 to 5, it doesn't mean that you must not have work experience, expose yourself, learn, and also at times go to an organization to say, I'm doing something maybe on the side, but I'd want to volunteer in your organization for 1 or 2 days to enrich what I am doing on the side. And then, things will fall into place definitely as well. So I don't see myself because, in fact, one thing, no offense to employers, but there's one thing about being employed. It says it concentrates everything that he have to a certain space, and you find that it's not too impactful as you would want to be, but it's the confinements of the employment space that you are in, such that I know a friend of mine, which I will not name, of course, for ethical reasons, who said to me, yes, I am working here, but it's limiting me. So, and my contract says I must not engage on other work. But yes, I said I respect that, but there is some work that I'm doing on the side behind the scenes as well, because I have more to offer. I cannot be confined by a contract which says I must not do other work, as long as it's not in conflict with the work that I'm doing. As long as I'm able to offer 100% in the job that I'm doing, so then I can still do other things behind the scenes as well. So if we conspire to, once you conspire, in fact, once you take a decision, the universe will conspire to make it happen at all cost, at all cost. And you may be the only one who sees what you see as well, because you did psych, so you know that when we speak about mental illness, we also speak about statistical significance. If I see this as blue, how many people see this as blue? If all of us in this house see this as blue, then would say, then I'm not mad by saying this is blue. But if I see that this is green and I'm the only one who see this as green, so there might be an issue of madness, but there is positive madness. When you pursue a vision, when you pursue whatever that you want to pursue, allow yourself to be mad as well. In fact, madness, there is Khalil Gibran who says, I have fallen in love with my madness. But just to summarize the quote eventually says, it says it takes away any pressure. It takes madness to, he says, madness takes away any expectation. Because, when I'll use the word mad, even though we know that there's no one who's mad, but when you are mad, you do not care what the other person thinks, what the other person sees. And such that, when someone who's schizophrenic, you'll interact, have a conversation with yourself, because that's what you see. So let it be the same thing even with what we want to do. Yes, when that what you want to do, even if you are the only one who sees it, pursue it until it opens up to everyone to say, oh, this is what was driving Neliswa. This is what was inspiring Mthobisi to do this. We're not seeing it at that time, but now it's all clear to all on Sandra that this is what he was pursuing. So that is what the culture that we need to embrace as a society, as young people. But embracing that culture does not mean that we then need to neglect the social responsibility that government structures or the society has in terms of giving young people, kickstarting young people, assisting them to get funding, assisting them with networking, assisting them to get resources. Yes, to get resources, because in as much as you'd say you want to employ yourself, but you need to have a network, or you have to be aligned with the resources that will assist you to do that. So we must not then, just because you are saying no, you are pursuing that, but you must also say there must be accountability in terms of saying, in as much as I'm making the effort, but the powers that be must also meet us halfway in the effort that I'm giving.
Yeah. What can you say to someone who really wants to get employed, but at the moment can't have that?
Yeah. I want to try not to be subjective. I would say keep trying. Get yourself out there. Reach out to people if you can. Offer your skills, because at times people do not know that they need you until they realize that they need you. So make yourself wanted. Create demand for yourself. It could be in minor ways, that, let's say, we understand that maybe when you need a job, that means economically you may not you may not be able to sustain yourself. But if you can, do that voluntary work once a week, once a month, if you can as well. And there are some organizations who can say, we cannot pay you for the voluntary work, but maybe we can assist you with transportation. Maybe there is someone, or even maybe they say, maybe to say there's a colleague who has a car, maybe who comes from the same area that you come from, so you can get a lift every day and come offer your skills just once, and then you are exposing yourself. You are creating networks, lifelong networks, such that when you then and the logical thing is when they need someone, the first person to come to mind will be the person. Oh, we have been having someone who's been coming here volunteering once a week, once a month. Let's hear him. Is he available for this post? Then if he's not, then okay, then we can think about advertising as well. So I think get yourself out there and also look at your skills. Be inward looking at the moments whilst I'm still looking for a job. What is it that I can do with the skills that I have to get myself going? And maybe you may not earn a living, but to keep me busy and to keep my mind a channel to a certain, in fact, about about being employed, it's not mostly about if fine, it's not mostly about, but it's about, feeling useful.
Purpose.
Yes.
That I
Feeling
wake
that
up every day and
there's something to look forward to every morning. I must set an alarm at 6 a.m. Because one thing about unemployment is that it says, even when you wake up in the morning, you said, it's yet another day as well. But when you found the purpose, you say, let me wake up at 5 a.m. so that I can prepare this and that as well. So it says the purpose, try to find your purpose as well and allow yourself to grow and get yourself out there and try to offer your skills in the best way that you can and try to find a way to monetize that, of course, whilst you are still looking for that ideal employment opportunity that you have. Personally, I think I would say I've been a bit lucky, maybe at first, maybe I'd call it just luck, When I think when we graduated in October, in fact, in October 2023, like the official graduation, but we had completed in December. So when we got, I think a week after getting my certificates, then I got an offer for some job that I had to do, but it wasn't in line. In fact, it wasn't in line with what I had studied in tertiary. But it was in line with the extracurricular activities I was doing, the peer counseling and educating I was doing on campus. It was in line with the Rotary outreach programs that I was doing. It was in line with the mental health society work I was doing. So it was not in line with the qualification, but it was in line with that. So if you get yourself out there, if you are in a space, let's say if you are a student in a tertiary institution, in as much as you need to excel, you need your grades to be quite impressive.
Yeah.
But find something to do here. Join poetry societies, join debate clubs, join whatever.
easy.
Exactly, so that you can get to know people, get to network as well, and build other skills that you will need afterwards. Because the struggle of unemployment is real, and you will need to set yourself apart for you to make a mark or for you to be in demand. So you really need to get yourself something that will separate you from the rest as well. So be unique, be versatile, but not to say when we are saying be versatile, we're not saying do everything all at once, but try to find certain things that you can focus on to develop the skills that you have. So yeah, that's just that, my dear.
That is quite insightful, sir. It is really quite insightful. That is really quite insightful. And I'm hoping that everyone is getting this and actually will get to put it into practice. Because it's not really good that you need to take the whole information, but just get a piece that you can use as on your agenda,
Yeah.
And we need those insights, my brother. And thank you so much for that. I think as we approach our end, maybe one other question that I would like to ask you is, what can you say? Maybe we are on As You Think, So Are You.
Yeah.
So it's more like what I believe in is our thoughts actually have the greatest influence on our lives.
Yeah.
In everything we do, it all starts in our minds.
Yeah.
As we are telling people to be versatile, we're telling people to try and do all things, but it's about what really do you think about yourself?
Yeah.
What really do you think are your capabilities?
Yeah.
To what extent do you think you can go? All in the mind, because it all starts in the conceptual phase of being an idea.
Yeah.
Then it gets to manifesting in the physical. You say, what I thought I can do. So how have thoughts played a role actually getting you to where you are today?
Okay. Yeah. In fact, even though thoughts are not in isolation, but you cannot think about something that you have not been exposed to an extent, or something that you have not seen with your eyes, that you have not heard about, or that you have not read about. So I would say let us get as much information that we can. And as we get as much information that we can, not through maybe not necessarily through the formal learning environment, but let's try to cultivate the culture of reading, listening to different people, absorbing information, so that we can transform the way that we think. Because it's in fact the internal influences the external, and in fact it's a dialectical process. So once you acquire information, you then begin to realize that actually, there's far more that I can do. Actually, I can, I must not be confined with the tribe mentality to say what I am capable of attaining is what I can see in the environment around me. So let us expose ourselves, let us get to learn as much as we can. And thoughts are so powerful, such that, as you have said, when you take a decision, so you take a decision, a decision emanates from an idea, and that idea comes from a certain thought that has been deposited in your mind. So we must, as young people, we must, as just listeners, try to see things from a different perspective, so that we can say, you see yourself, in fact, you become what you want to be even before you become that as well. Leave it before you get. In fact, some call it, I don't want to use the word, but some call it manifestation. Yeah, they call you manifest. But believe it, live it, be it before you become it as well. So I think thoughts for me have, even in situations whereby I was closer to breaking down, closer to living hope, just having that thought which says, Mthobisi, you've done something lekanjena, and what can stop you from transforming this? What can stop you from overcoming this? So I think that is quite critical. Thoughts are powerful, and thoughts create things, by the way, and vice versa. Things create thoughts, and thoughts create things. So we must be able to be guide our thoughts as well, because if you just let your thoughts float, they'll think about all the things that aren't working. Because, to be honest, there are a lot of things that aren't going right. But if you say, okay, there are a lot of things that aren't going right, then you say, okay, to these on these things that aren't going right, what is it that I can do? If there's anything that I can do, let me do it. Then if there is nothing that I can do, let me find a way of doing something else. Maybe it will transform as time goes by. So you must be able to discipline yourself through your thoughts as well, guide your thoughts as well. Not just positivity, so to say. In fact, you must be positive, but also you must also appreciate things as they are, so that you can be able. Because at times I usually say, sometimes you need to be positive, but be also, so to say, you have room to say, you are not, in fact, you are not like, you are not too sure about what's going to happen, but appreciate that there is a room that things might not work out, but at the same time I still need to have hope, in as much as things do not work out. So I do not like the culture, maybe no offense to motivational speakers who say, you must be positive. Yes, you must be positive and realistic. And also at times, some if you're at times, a little level of being pessimistic will help you to say, let me prepare myself better as well for any eventuality that may come as well. So you need both of being, you must be positive in totality, but at the same time, you need to say, you need the people who will say, this is not going to work out wrong. Ngubani lo awambona la kangwane enda lokhu, and to say, oh, vele mbani, oh, okay, kude le khona vele. That means I might be the first one. That means I might be the pioneer. So you need the negative from around people, but let it not then get into your side. Exact. Yeah. Yeah.
Not run away from that.
Because I think at times being too positive is, I usually say, okay, you need to have hope, but sometimes it's the hope that kills. This is not a contradiction to saying we need to have hope, but to say if you have unrealistic hope at times, I'll make an example in a relationship. when you see that, this person is no longer interested in this relationship, but you say, I hope that one day he or she will change, then that hope at times might kill you. There are some things that you say, you just need to say, okay, this is not working out. Let me just put it on hold. If maybe I find other strategies, I'll come back and redo it. But for now, let me do something else because this is not working out. So you need to strike a balance between being positive as well as being realistic at the same time.
Yeah, my brother, we can talk for the whole day.
Yeah.
We can talk for the whole day. I can see some
Yeah.
insights.
Yeah.
A lot, actually, a lot of informative discussions. And let me just take this moment once again to appreciate you for what you've just shared and for actually presenting yourself as you are.
Yeah.
Sharing these open ideas, not confining it to anything really, not even to your profession, but from the experiences you've shared to the professional views, to your own advices, your own experiences, everything. I believe that, okay, I myself even have taken a lot from this conversation, and I'm actually going to revisit some things, to actually think more about other things, to actually try even more new things.
Yeah.
Because we really cannot confine ourselves to this. So thank you so much once again for being here. And I believe we need to have another conversation with you because I can see there's a lot we can actually talk about. And I'm sure people will get to benefit a lot from this. So any parting words before we actually get to close?
Okay. No, thank you very much. I appreciate, being in this space. There could have been, could have been a lot of people that you could have reached out to. But, the fact that you said, oh, there's Mthobisi you can work with, I truly appreciate that, my brother, as well. And I hope I have been able to, in fact, I've been able to learn quite a lot from the conversation because you, as a psych nurse, you will know that as someone poses questions to you, you begin to clarify certain thoughts that maybe were a bit scattered as well. So I've been able, and also from insights that you shared, some which challenged the way I see things as well, which of course we might or even debate outside or when you find some, but I think I've been challenged in the way that I think as well. So my parting shots would be, let us not stop trying. Let us not lose hope in any situation. Let us, if in anything that doesn't work, let us find what can work outside what did not work. I'll just share a personal experience as well. I think from my period, I think for a time, for last year, it was about last year. I think the entire last year, employed for 2 months, and then the contract expired, they elapsed as well. So for about 10 months last year, when I was unemployed, even now, I'd say I'm just working on personal projects, which some are paying, and which some are paying. So I'm saying, from the time of unemployment, I got to learn a lot about myself, and I got to learn a lot about things that I did not want to do as well. I began to realize that actually what I needed was not a full-time employment as well. I just needed to get myself out there. I just needed to use my skills. So let us use what we have to get what we would aspire to have at the moment. So let's use the resources around us, the people around us, the institutions around us, the networks around us, the books around us. As I can see, even there are books here. Let us expose ourselves to different information. And of course, the stars will definitely align if we ensure that we stay on the right course as well. So let us keep on trying. And also, let us also, if you have a chance to help someone else, do so. You lose nothing really by uplifting someone else. You just don't lose anything. We have a culture of assuming that if I make it, or if Rango makes it, or if Neliswa makes it, that means an opportunity for me to make it has been denied. Actually, no. If Rango gets employed, if Neliswa gets employed, it means that there are fewer unemployed people. That means I might be next in line, or I might be, in fact, we must see it in that nation instead of saying, oh, just because this one has been employed, then I'm now being existing my. No, let's say he's been employed. That means there are fewer unemployed people. I might be on the line. My skills might be needed. I might be able to offer my skills. So to the listeners and viewers, at home, I'd say let us not, we may lose everything and anything, but we have not lost everything if you have not lost the hope. And you can still do certain things. You can still rise even when at times when you feel like you have been at rock bottom. You know, someone once said, mawuwile, the good thing about Goa is that ngeke wendlule emhlabathini. When you are at rock bottom, you know you cannot go any further. You have nothing to lose, but you have all the strength that you need to rise up again. So let us keep trying. Let us not lose hope. Let us keep exploring different things, and things will definitely work out at the end of the day.
Thank you once again, my brother. Thank you once again.
Much appreciated. Yeah.
So we have come to the end of our session today, and as we conclude, I just want to believe that each and every one of us got something from this conversation. I've got a lot. I've got many insights that I'm actually going to apply in my own life, and I am hoping the same about you. And as we have discussed, as you think, so are you. Invest in your thoughts, invest in what you are feeding yourself, what you are feeding your mind, what you are consuming. And this is information worth consuming. So do think about actually getting more of this information and getting to share it with someone who you think will actually get to benefit from it, who can relate and actually it will resonate with. And as we are concluding once again, thank you so much for being with us, and until next time, thank you so much.